Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's an honour to rise today to move third reading of the Fairness and Safety in Sport Act. This bill delivers on our government's unwavering commitment to creating a fair and safe sport environment in Alberta for young women and girls. And it is to them that I dedicate this speech and this bill because, Mr. Speaker, it is incumbent upon us as a government to create an environment that is fair and safe for all young girls and women who want to compete. Mr. Speaker, sports teaches you how to overcome challenges, how to strive for your personal best, how to respect your opponents, and that is something that even comes in handy in this House. And for many athletes, myself included, the friendships formed on the field, the court, or the track, they last a lifetime, Madam Speaker. The power of sport can shape lives in positive ways, and it's what makes it so crucial that every Albertan has the opportunity to fairly and safely experience the benefit of sport because, Madam Speaker, sport is for everyone, and every athlete deserves a fair and safe environment in which to compete. Now, I appreciate the robust debate that has occurred in this chamber on this bill so far, and I'd like to discuss some of the comments made during this debate. Members of the opposition spoke at length, saying that what Albertans really need is increased access to sport and recreation in our province. Well, Mr. Speaker, if they've been paying any attention, they'd be aware that our government has already created programs to address those very concerns, and I'm happy to reiterate those for the people in this House and for the edification of those watching online. Beginning with the Active Communities Initiative, which is a $30 million commitment to creating and upgrading sport and recreation infrastructure in communities in every corner of the province. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, we also launched the Every Kid Can Play program, which helps make sport accessible, which is helping approximately 10,000 young Albertans every year register for sport by helping underprivileged families cover the cost of registration. It also provides funding for nonprofit organizations that run sport and recreation programs so they can serve more children. They can run coaching clinics, they can rent facilities, and rent equipment, so kids can learn how to play sport properly and safely, Madam Speaker. Additionally, this summer, our government provided $400,000 to Sports Central and the Flames Sport Bank, two organizations that provide sport equipment to kids across the province. Mr. Speaker, we do all this, Madam Speaker, because our government is committed to breaking down financial barriers that prevent Albertans from engaging in sport and recreation in our province. Now, we also heard, Madam Speaker, the NDP claiming that the biological and physiological differences inherent between the sexes have no impact on sport performance. Madam Speaker, that claim is just blatantly false. The opposition overlooked the inherent physical differences between biological males and females and how these differences impact athletes. Specifically, biological female athletes who are forced to compete against stronger, faster, more physically capable biological male athletes against their will. They ignore the experiences of the women who have spoken out in support of this legislation, like Hannah Pilling, a constituent of mine who spoke at our press conference for this legislation. They ignore the studies that have shown that female athletes are more vulnerable to sustaining serious injuries when female-only sports are opened up to biological males, resulting in knocked-out teeth, neural impairment, broken bones, and skull fractures, concussions. The evidence that even the non-elite sport, the least powerful man, can produce more power than the most powerful woman, and at that, where men and women have roughly the same levels of fitness, men can punch with approximately 126% more strength than the average woman. Sport is inherently physical, Madam Speaker. So to deny the impacts of biological and physiological differences of the sexes of sport is absurd. It's absurd, Madam Speaker. If the opposition aren't convinced by these numbers, there are examples that are closer to home. Currently, here in Alberta, 4 of the 5 powerlifting records in the female classic 84 kilo plus class are held by biological males. Madam Speaker, absurd. And when women competing in that division began questioning if it was fair, they were suspended from their sport and they were told that they should, quote, lose some weight so that they wouldn't have to compete against more physically powerful biological male competitors. Women in our province should not be backed into a corner like this and told that their own safety and well-being in sport comes second. I will not look at my daughter or any young girl in this province and tell her that when women's sports, their needs come second. And any parent who is willing to do that is not on the right side of this issue, Madam Speaker. And we have heard members of the opposition make ridiculous claims about women in sport, and I can tell you they are off the... I'll be parliamentary. They are wrong. I ask through you to the members opposite, why do you want to see young women and girls hurt playing sports? Why do you care so little about young women and girls who want to compete at a high level in this province, who want a chance for scholarships, who want a chance for sponsorships, who want a chance to compete at the highest level, and those opportunities be robbed? Why do they care so little? Because, Madam Speaker, that is what I'm hearing from the members opposite. They don't understand the science of this, and they obviously don't understand the competitive side of this. Madam Speaker, I do, and I'm doing this to protect the safety of women and girls and the integrity of women's sports in the province of Alberta. Madam Speaker, now I hear the members opposite saying, so gross. So gross. Is it gross for me to stand in this chamber and defend women's sports and the integrity of competition? Is it wrong for me? Is it gross for me to stand in this chamber and to defend the rights of young women who want to play, who want opportunities at scholarships? Madam Speaker, it is wrong. Shame on the members opposite for saying that. So, Madam Speaker, in addition to protecting women-only sport divisions, this bill also takes proactive steps to support the formation of additional co-ed divisions where numbers warrant. These divisions will offer opportunities for all athletes to compete while preserving the fairness and safety of competitive sport. And by expanding co-ed divisions, we are not only ensuring the transgender athletes have meaningful opportunities to compete and participate, but also promoting inclusivity of athletics across the board. Our government will work closely with applicable organizations to provide the resources and guidance necessary to support these new divisions. Excuse me. Now, the opposition has asked about the consultation done with this legislation, and I can assure you, Madam Speaker, that this bill did not come together in isolation. Over the past several months, our government has engaged in consultations with key stakeholders, including school authorities, post-secondary institutions, and provincial sport organizations, as well as coaches, athletes, parents, members of the transgender community, and other subject matter experts to help inform our approach to creating a safe and fair system in sport. And I can tell you, Madam Speaker, from many personal experiences, as I've gone into meetings unrelated to this bill, stakeholders have pulled me to the side, mothers and fathers, and said, by the way, I want to thank you for moving forward with this legislation. I have a daughter who's competing in this sport or that sport at this age group, and they just want to compete in a fair and a safe environment. And we are seeing young female athletes leaving athletics at an alarming rate around the age of 12 or 13. And it's not all because of this issue, Madam Speaker. I will concede that, but I can tell you it is a factor. And the members opposite, of course, are whispering and they're heckling because they have issues with this, and they say, how many transgender athletes have you recorded? Madam Speaker, we don't keep track of those numbers, but what I can tell you is I have heard stories, real stories of athletes being hurt, who have lost out on competition and medals, opportunities to compete at the next level because of competing against transgender athletes. And that, Madam Speaker, is the only statistic that we need to move forward this. Because as the members have said on other issues, one is too many. Now, Madam Speaker, we listened carefully to all the concerns of stakeholders and their perspectives, and we incorporated their feedback to craft legislation that balances fairness, safety, and inclusivity in Alberta sports, something we've heard through our consultation with every organization and sport and they're all unique. And that is where our government is committed to providing clear guidance and assistance to the stakeholders as they navigate this legislation. We will work hand in hand with these organizations to make sure that they have the resources, the information, and the support they need to implement these changes and ensure fairness and safety in sport that they oversee. During debate, the NDP rose and speculated wildly about the eligibility and enforcement process that will be put in place, asking that each and every detail be included in the legislation itself. But, Mr. Speaker, this bill creates a framework, Madam Speaker, this bill creates a framework to address the issues of fairness and safety. And it is standard practice to have procedural details worked out in regulation. Members of the opposition who were in government, who were ministers, would know that, and other members may not, but they're learning it today. And if passed, this legislation will take effect in the fall of 2025, and in the coming months, we will work closely with our partners to ensure a smooth and fair implementation process. In conclusion, I call on all members of the Assembly to support the Fairness and Safety in Sport Act, because, Madam Speaker, sport is and always will be for everyone, and this legislation will help ensure all Albertan athletes can thrive in an environment that is fair and safe and inclusive. With that, Madam Speaker, I move through to reading of Bill 29, the Fairness and Safety in Sport Act. Thank you.